Welcome to the Learning Without Limits interview series. I'm your host, Melanie Bernicle. This episode, I chat with a well-versed entrepreneur where one of his goals is to give back 70% of his wealth. He's building schools in underprivileged communities, helping people who don't have the means to help themselves, and everything about his business is to give back. He's also a winemaker. He's got multiple businesses. He started working at the age of 11, his first business at the age of 15. He is incredible, and I hope you love our story today. Welcome, Richie Harkham. Thanks so much for joining us, Richie.
Thank you. So great to be here.
Awesome. I can't wait to get into your story because there's so much that you do and so many different inspiring things from an entrepreneurial level through to philanthropy. This is going to be a fun one.
I know. Always fun with you. I always have a great time hanging out with you. So.
All right. So tell me, when it all started when you were younger, what did you think you might be doing with your life?
It's really funny. I'm actually one of 9 children. I'm second eldest of 9 kids.
So you're still in the good bossy section up top.
Thank God. I feel sorry for the younger ones, right? They have it hard.
Yeah.
30 nephews and nieces now, which is great.
Wow, I thought I was doing well at 8.
30. I know, I don't remember all their names.
Wow, how's Christmas? It's just like cash.
Yeah, just money. No gifts, just money. They love it.
Just money.
But when I was younger, it was really funny. I think I was a very dreamy kind of kid.
Yeah.
And I didn't really assert myself well at school. And I remember we had a school counselor, like a careers counselor, and I had a meeting with her. And she told me that I'd be a fantastic cleaner or janitor one day. And that would be my profession. No offense to cleaners or janitors, but I just suck at it.
Yeah.
So I think we all have those in our lives.
Yes.
But what I think I wanted to do is, I remember when I was young, I went to Les Miserables. My uncle Ephraim took me. And I was about 7 years old, and I watched this opera, and I watched the composer lead people and move his hands, and the big like opera would play, and the guitars and the drums. And I wanted to be a composer.
Wow.
Believe it or not, my first job that I ever wanted was a composer.
Did you study music as well, or?
I am so bad at music. So I don't know where that came from. I just had that inkling. It was such a cool job to lead people,
Yes. Bring it all together.
Bring it all together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Makes sense, but I've gone obviously in very different directions.
Yeah. So what did you end up finishing school, studying?
Yeah. So growing up, I had my first job when I was 11 years old. Yep. I worked in a bakery. I was making $4.50 an hour. I was a bagel boy. I thought I was killing it at the time. I learned customer service really well. I learned so many people in the community now I do business with. They're like, you were that boy.
Oh, wow.
And everyone wants a favor. Everyone wanted the hot bagels in the mornings, Sunday mornings. But I did that. But actually where I got a lot of my inspiration in business was growing up, my father and my dad's family, my mom's family were immigrants to Australia. They came here, and my grandparents, no one even spoke English, and they worked and they worked and they worked. Yes. And watching them just try to make something of their lives for us really inspired me to want to do something as well.
Yeah.
And my dad dropped out of high school when he came here. He was 16 years old, and he was in the fashion business. We call it the schmutters, is a word for it. And him and my 2 uncles were in the business together. They would be maybe late 20s, early 30s, and they were on fire. They were doing so well. But I used to sit in on their meetings, and I remember they used to have Katie's, Best and Less.
Wow.
Back then, all the big ones used to come, and they used to have meetings, and they didn't know what they were doing. I'd be there before, but during the meeting, they were so confident. They would just sell whatever they could do. Yes, we can do it. Yes, we can do it. And then the buyers would walk out, and they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I actually really loved that hustle and the high and kind of, the challenge of it all.
Yeah.
And all through my younger years, my dad was working, but I used to come to the factory. He used to take me to bless all the dresses, like run past all the dresses and bless them.
Fun.
And he never gave us money. Like he made us work from a very, very young age. And I just loved it.
I think when your parents have their own businesses, because mine had theirs as well, there's some really good initiatives that you take away from it. There's that drive, there's that wanting to be great, and it really teaches you a lot rather than relying on, external sources. You can create this. And then that drives that passion and that excitement.
100%.
And I think it is a slight addiction with the adrenaline and the rush of like absolutely like nailing something.
I think I still have that adrenaline, that rush and the addiction, same. But I just couldn't wait to start my own business. I was so excited.
So you finished school and did you jump straight into your own business?
I actually started my own business when I was 15 years old.
What?
Yeah. I was like in high school, I'm like, okay, I don't work anymore in the bakery.
Yeah.
I need to make money whilst I'm at school.
Yeah.
What can I do that will bring in the moolah whilst I'm at school?
I love this.
And I had a friend who had a dad who did vending machines.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to buy a vending machine.
Ah.
So, but before I had to buy a vending machine, I would just need to work out where I was going to put the vending machines.
Yep.
And I went around to like hostels at the time. They weren't backpackers yet. And I went to the bosses and I said, look, how much are you getting? How much is Coca-Cola paying you? And they told me how much, and I'd undercut them slightly. Or I'd say, why do you want to get a commission when you give me my partner and I'll do all the work for you?
I love it.
You buy water for 30 cents, you sell it for $1.80, you buy Coke on sale. You don't understand. I just have this amazing woman called Georgia who would run around for me. She was this kick-ass woman in a little mini dress.
And you were 15.
Yeah, this happened when I was a bit older. I still have her a long time, but yeah. I would just tell her what to do. She'd be my employee, but everyone was scared of her. And the trick was to go to Coles or Woolworths when the Coca-Cola was on sale, because you could buy Coca-Cola cheaper from Coles or Woolworths on sale than you buy for Coca-Cola.
Wow.
So it was a big hustle, but my parents' garage was filled with soft drinks and drinks. And I ended up with like bags of coins. It was epic. That was my first business.
I love it. The coins in the bag.
I had it for a few years. Yeah, it was fantastic.
So how many vending machines did you have?
In their peak, I probably had like 4 vending machines. I had a Mr. Who pinball machine. I had 2 pool tables.
Awesome.
But it wasn't about like where you had them. It ended up being like how good quality the venues were, like what kind of venues they were. That was really good. Yeah.
Wow, I love that you learnt that so young. So whilst you were studying, I just want another Georgia. I need a Georgia in my life though.
She's amazing. Everyone needs a Georgia. We're still very good friends.
That's amazing. So did you go to uni after school?
So I finished high school.
Yeah.
I crammed. We spoke about cramming before this.
Yes.
I got 91, which is pretty good, 92.
You know, just after cramming.
No, my school, it was like under average actually. And then I did a commerce degree. I did an accounting degree at Sydney Uni. But at the same time, my grandfather used to own secondhand bookshops. We opened up one in Sydney in Rose Bay called the Manual's Bookstore.
Oh,
yeah.
I always loved family-run bookstores. There's this, when I used to grow up on the inner west, there was one in Balmain, and I would always go to the family-owned bookstore over the big departments. There was just something, I don't know, homely about it. And I love books, but I'd sit in there and chat to the people that owned it. And
it was amazing. But he used to fall asleep whilst he would work in the shop. And people would want to buy a book, he'd be sleeping. It was all cash back then. So he'd just leave the money on the table and walk out and no one even knew what was sold.
Wow, no CCTV
But that's my
for
first business failure actually, was that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
It just was, we were ahead of our time. Like we couldn't put them online. It was a wrong, I think every shop in that spot has failed.
Yeah.
It was a wrong location, but it was a great business because we used to go to like deceased estates. We put in a trading post, deceased estate, we'll take the lot. And someone passes away, you buy all their books, you get 1,000 books. 50 out of 1,000 books are really valuable. Maybe 5 are like end of sets, which are worth $1,000 to the right people. But back then there was no internet, but it was a cool business.
So the marketing for it just wasn't available with the technology we have now.
It was hard whilst I was at university. Anyways, I did that. Accounting degree. Then I opened I couldn't wait to do my first big business, and it was a backpackers hostel, 21 years old. But we can be here all day talking about my businesses.
Wow. Oh my God.
I did backpacker hostel in the city. I took a hostel, turned it into a backpackers hostel, did really, really well. I lived behind 9 kids. We never did our own washing at home. It was like a laundromat at my mum's house. So moving out of home, I didn't really know how to do my own washing. And I had no love to do it.
Your mum made me start doing everyone's washing at 10.
I didn't do it. So I was in the city, there's nowhere to do washing, and I'm like, hold on a second. There's an opportunity here. There's no laundromats here. So I opened up a laundromat next to the backpackers hostel called Wash and Go. It's still there today.
Brilliant.
And it was a vending machine laundromat. So one employee, it was a massive hustle. We killed it. We sold it after 2 years.
That's amazing.
Did really well, yeah.
I love that you've you see the opportunity, but you seize it, because people sometimes see the opportunity and sit there and think about it for so long, then it passes.
I think it's the entrepreneur. It's one thing to be able to see an opportunity that other people don't see, but to take that risk, which other people wouldn't take, and to jump in. And look, you're going to be wrong 90% of the times, but that 10th time, it's going to be a hit.
Yeah.
And,
in saying that, so we've been chatting about in different interviews that we do, the success in failure. And I guess this is one thing, when you just throw yourself into it, and it'll either work or it doesn't, but not to have that fear around it not working, but try and make something work and then know when it's right or wrong. And
100%. C.S. Lewis says, failure are the finger posts in the road to success.
Oh, I like that.
You need to fail to be successful in life. If you think about it, right? Yeah. If everything was easy, everyone would be so successful.
Yes.
But it's those which can fail, pick yourself up, dust it off, learn from what didn't work, which is the most important thing. I don't make the same mistake twice, and then go again and apply yourself again. I've had so many failures in my life. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of my things have failed, and I've learned so much from it. But my biggest thing is I don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing with failure.
Yeah. I think it's such a great advice for anyone who is looking to start their own business. Acceptance around the fact that some things will work and some things won't. And what's classified as a so-called failure is really just a really good learning curve, rather than having this attachment to it, which holds people back for the future.
100%. It's about being adaptable.
Yeah.
When you failed, you learn that everything's not going to work out, and you're not scared to go again. I actually set myself up for failure sometimes, just to keep my failure muscle.
Just to keep that,
100%. And I actually highly recommend it for people. Go somewhere, go to a coffee shop and say, look, I don't have any money, or I don't have money today. Can I get a coffee? And just try to persuade the person. Use your charm, use your wit. You see?
I'd feel sick in the stomach.
We all feel like that, but go somewhere and no one knows you.
Yes.
Have a go.
Not to the local across the road. They're like, bring it back in, 5 minutes.
Or try for a drink at a bar.
Yeah. Wow.
Or even better, look for the most gorgeous person in the room and ask them to buy you a drink at the bar.
Yeah, never hurts to ask. I do always think it never hurts to ask or to try things, but there's some things that I probably still wouldn't ask for. I'd probably just go without coffee for a day.
I think that...
But it's a good thing to do, because it pushes you out of that comfort zone.
And it's a real skill that we lack in today's world. We all want to be safe. We all want to not get hurt. We all want to... And I'm one of those people, naturally. We're all naturally like that. Yeah. But the ones that are successful are the ones that can push those bounds. Yes. To know themselves, to know they feel so scared on the inside, but I'm just going to have a crack. Let's do it
anyway. I love it. What's that book? Feel the fear and do it anyway.
There you go.
Yeah. So need my glasses. I know we sort of skipped around a few things. I'm just going to come back into there. Okay, yeah, that's where I wanted to go with that.
Sorry.
No, it's great. It's perfect. But it's just kind of like, how do I just bring that back into where I wanted to go? Yeah. Cool. So talking about, knocking yourself down and pulling yourself back up again, you do a lot of talks on resilience. And, within that space, how did you find your strength, when it comes to resilience? Obviously, you've seen your parents go through business. You've seen them come from another country and build themselves up and make something. Where does your personal inner strength, so that you know how to trust your gut? Where did that come from for you?
I think it's a very good question. So in business, you're going to learn resilience. Where you're going to sink or you're going to swim. And every business owner knows that. And me, from a very early age, I knew that. You're on your own a lot of the time. Yeah. But for me, my journey really was when I know you probably know this about me, 7 years ago, I had a really bad motorbike accident. I had a near-death experience where I was nearly killed. Just to give you a little bit of context, before that, I was the fittest, strongest, successful. I was on top of the world. I was invincible almost. And basically, I was riding my Harley Davidson one afternoon. It was actually April 14, 2014.
Wow.
And I was riding my Harley Davidson. I turned right into Birriga Road. I remember the wind on my face, and there was a big full moon in the sky. And up ahead in the distance, there was a white car parked in a station wagon parked in a driveway. And as a motorbike rider, you know, you're alert, you're looking, you slow down as you approach, had no lights, no indicator on. It was an old man in the car. I could just make out there was an old man. And I thought that he had saw me, and I went to accelerate past him. And rather than braking, he started coming out as I was going. And then when I worked out I could just get around if he touched the brakes, he pushed harder on the accelerator.
Whoa.
And it was at that point, I just braced. I knew that he was going to hit me. And he went bang. His car pinned my leg against my motorbike.
Oh, shit.
And I just felt a breaking feeling in my body. He crushed my whole leg from my knee down. And I had no pain. He slammed on the brakes. I remember second by second. He slammed on the brakes. He pushed my motorbike into oncoming traffic. And it was at that point I could just see a car coming towards me. Headlights were on. And I thought I was going to die. Whoa. And my whole life just flashed in front of me. And it was a really crazy point because, you know, you would think that you're going to just be so scared of dying. But I actually thought about all the good things I've done in my life. And I was ready to die. It was really crazy experience. And the car veered off and missed me, and I slid off my motorbike before it landed on top of me, and I ended up on the road. And the second I touched the road, I tried to get up to get off the road, which was my first instinct, and I couldn't move. My bones, my tibia, fibula came out of my leg, had compound fractures. I shattered my whole knee, and blood was coming out of everywhere, and I was just screaming. And it was crazy because I wasn't screaming from the pain as much as shock, because I couldn't believe that a second before I was a strong person, and 1 second later, I'm on the ground, my leg shattered, and I knew that my life would change forever. And I was actually screaming out, why God, why God, why me, why me? So I couldn't understand that it could happen to me.
Yeah. Especially when you're doing things in your, right in life, you know, you go out there, you're doing all these great things.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you weren't doing anything wrong in that moment either.
Yeah, and you know, it's the first time I just knew that I wouldn't get out of this so easily. And I knew that feeling. I had it in my gut. And I waited on the side of the road for 25 minutes, and what for an ambulance comes rush hour traffic. But what followed after that was you can imagine motorbike accident, all the cars stop every which way. Yeah. They thought I broke my neck because I landed on my helmet. I shattered my helmet. Wow. So it was so lucky. It was miraculous that I only had a leg injury, but I didn't break my head, had no brain damage on my neck.
If that other car would have, you know, in its moments. Moments
or seconds, it's inches, it's so crazy. But what followed for me was 5 years of pain and suffering, or 4 years of really intense, 8 operations, 7 which failed. I spent hundreds of days laying in a hospital bed. I was in and out of hospital for 4 years. For more than 20 hours a day, I was laying in hospital. You know, self-isolation, anxiety, depression, loneliness, chronic pain for 3 years. I couldn't walk. I was on a steroid called Forteo, which I injected in myself for a whole year, which gives you anxiety, depression. I actually lacked sleep. Does that to
stop the pain? Or
that was actually to strengthen my bone. I stopped breathing. I came back to life in an operation. I've been 2 first in the world operations I had. And it was just a very long journey of my life. And I think going through that, I was able to find the strength within myself, which is normal, right? You're either going to sink or you're going to swim.
But there's something special about that, you know, when you've been through such a traumatic experience where it is life or death. And pain, when it becomes that chronic pain, you know, it's that cycle, you know, there's drugs, there's this, and it's just this cycle of everything. And it really plays havoc with your natural state of being.
I think just a shock, and I think we've all had this in our lives. Everyone's gone through, you know, a divorce or a breakup or an injury or a death in the family, or everyone's need to find resilience. We've all had our issues in the past. And I think the initial part is a shock, and led me to what I speak about is return on resilience. And return on resilience is actually about finding an opportunity in bad things that happen to you.
Yes.
Finding an opportunity in bad things that happen to us.
Yes.
And it's actually, you need to go through the stages. By helping people and through my own journey, I worked out 4 different stages that everyone will go through in order to find an opportunity.
Can you talk me through them?
Yeah, sure. So the first one is identity. So identity is about finding hope, is knowing that we're never going to be the same people ever again. We're not. Life is going to be different. It's like with COVID, everyone had an identity crisis. We couldn't be the same people that we were.
Yeah.
And it's about accepting that it's okay, which takes you to the next stage. It's about, and actually in identity, it's about hope and finding purpose, a new purpose. And then the second one is integration. Integration is all about integrating everything that happened, integrating the shock. Kubler-Ross puts it, the stages of grief that you have to go through. Denial. In my case, I wanted to deny that anything happened to me. I laid in my hospital bed thinking, this is not real, it's not true, it's not going to happen. Yeah. And then you get to anger. I was angry at the driver. I was angry at myself for riding motorbikes. And then you do bargaining is the third step. I bargain with God. If only I could turn back time, if only I can have a redo. And then we have depression, which is the turning point. You get really sad, life is tough, I'm sad, I'm not going to make it, which leads to acceptance. Accepting a new reality, accepting the new you, accepting you can get through this. So that's the second stage, is integration. And the third stage is inner influence. Inner influence is finding the influence within yourself to overcome whatever you're going through in your life. And how do we do that? What are your 2 most core values Brené Brown speaks about? But it's about actually digging down in your loins and finding that inner strength. And it's now taking it outwards, because the first 2 stages are inwards. And I'm going to learn this and find the strength to inspire other people, which is the 4th stage. And in inspire, it's actually about helping other people. And if you go through these 4 stages, you'll come out finding an opportunity at some point.
Yeah.
But it's about being adaptable.
Yes.
And return on resilience is about, getting through something, because things are always bad, always going to happen to you. But if you're adaptable and if you can go through these 4 stages, without bad things, you don't grow in life.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
I really like the phrasing that you've used as well, return on resilience.
Yeah.
And there was something that a gentleman put to me last year. We're working together in sort of learning deeper meditation and different states of being. And he always would say, you need to look in to be able to look out. And I think within a lot of society, we look out to look in. So we're looking at what everyone else here is doing to then be able to value ourselves here. But what you're saying, return, like this is our natural state of being. We are naturally this.
Yeah.
We naturally just are.
Yeah.
So to be able to go through these stages, to not be looking out here, but bringing it back in and finding it in here. And once you have that internal love and that internal connection, it never leaves you.
100%.
And it doesn't matter. You could be divorced. You could be on your own. You could not have this. When you have this like love and this internal power, that's naturally there for everybody. It's not something you earn or you gain. It's there. It's about acknowledgement.
100%.
And then when you see that and you feel that,
100%.
to be able to share from that space,
100%.
it's the best gift in the world. And you can give it to yourself at any moment, but you have to go through the crap. And when you said that, when you go through depression, you have to, we build ourselves up in these building blocks, I find. And then to literally be broken down, to all the barriers being stripped away and you're left bare. The beauty in that is that when it comes back together and your own pieces of your puzzle, which will be, a working, movement of art till the end of time, but there's just so much power in that. And we give it away, I think, too easily. So when you've come from what you're experiencing, and I really like the steps that you do, and then when people do that, they return back to themselves.
100%, yeah.
And I think what a beautiful thing that you've been able to break down and teach.
It sounds beautiful, but
It's
going through it was hell on earth. I woke up And, you know, people have to have the space to go through stuff and to go through the struggle and allow themselves to grieve and to mourn. And, you know, I talk about these steps, but whilst you're actually going through it, it's very, very, very hard.
Dark.
I mean, where I ended up was right at the end of my journey. Can you imagine I went through 3 years of hell on earth, poked, prodded. You know, every time you have an operation, you build up your hopes that you're going to get better, you're going to walk again. And then the hammer, they saw, they cut, they drill, and then you wake up from the operation, you're on morphine, you're in and out of consciousness for 2 weeks of hell on earth, intensive care, whatever you want. And then you got to learn how to walk again, and you go through all the physio to the point I couldn't even lift my leg up anymore because I've got no more muscle left. And then after 6 months, you're not healed and it's failed, and you got to do it all over again. And I went through that and I finally healed. I did first in the world operation twice. And then I had a very minor operation at the end of my 3rd year, and I was walking again for the first time. And I was like, I'm healed, I'm done. I needed to have a very small operation to get a screw out, which I moved in my leg. I went back to Germany where I had 4 of my operations. And I did the operation, came back to Australia, and I started feeling really unwell. And I went to have I had an Aperol spritz with one of my friends, as you do. I needed some like life in my life.
Yeah.
This is a few weeks after an operation.
Some form of normality.
It was my 7th operation. It was a very minor one. And I remember sitting there and I felt liquid coming out of my leg. My leg had split open and it was oozing with golden staph. And I went to the hospital, and after 3.5 years of hell on earth, I had a golden staph infection, which was inside of my joint, which they couldn't heal, and they were going to chop my leg off. I had more than a 50% chance of having a leg amputation. I couldn't even get a surgeon. And this is at the end of my journey, and I had no more strength to give. And it was actually at my lowest point that I had some of my biggest breakthroughs, where I just gave up. And that was the most amazing feeling in the world, is just to let go.
Let go. Yeah.
I had so much on myself, so much, you know, I had responsibility and I wanted to get better. But when I just let go, and at the end, I just didn't get excited and I didn't get sad, but it was hard. It was really, really hard. But I was okay. I was like, look, if I have a leg amputation, I'm just going to try my best that I can do. Yeah. And I found a surgeon that believed in me and trusted, because they get an asterisk against their name if you have an amputation. So I found one which is kind of finishing his career, Professor Neil, and he liked my attitude. And I said, I'll work harder than anyone will work, but I want to have a go. I want to have a go.
Yeah.
And he gave me a go, and I can get up. I can almost run now. I can jump.
That's amazing.
I train. I do yoga. I'm fully healed after 4 years of pain and not being able to walk.
Yeah.
So it was 1 in a million almost. So you are able, everyone is able to achieve something. Everyone, doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter if it's hard in the moment. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Keep pushing. You get there.
I love it. And then can you talk me through that operation that was unique?
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Can you just...
Sorry, I'm just jumping in. So sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I thought that would be a good time.
Thank you. Will that lead into you giving, like, that if we lead into...
Archangel.
Yes.
I lead in Archangels, boy.
That's the plan.
You liking this chat? It's okay?
I'm loving this chat. Thank you very much, Lee.
All over the place. Thank you.
It's great. Just good energy as well. Like it's
very different to the other ones as well, which I like.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's just been very different, which is good because it just takes you on a nice roller coaster of emotion, which is fun.
All right.
Cool.
Awesome.
So, Richie, can you just tell me a little bit about that, first off operation that you had twice?
Yeah. So it was, what I did in Australia had failed. I was in a really bad place, and I researched I used a doctor friend of mine in Los Angeles to research the 4 best trauma orthopedic surgeons in the world. As an entrepreneur, we don't give in to what people tell you. And I realized that doctors wouldn't talk to me because I wasn't a doctor. They just wouldn't speak to me, but they would speak to my doctor friend. And 3 out of the 4 wouldn't even look at me because they said, you're too far gone. This is my first year of my accident. And the best in the world, Professor Christian Kredek in Hanover, Germany, he said, we can have a go. And basically, it's the first graft of a knee transplant from a live donor.
From a live donor?
From a live donor. So they have brain damage.
Yes.
And they harvest their brain damage. They keep them on a ventilator so the heart's still bumping.
Yes.
And they harvest their joints and their organs whilst they're still alive. And they transplant into me the live tissue. So basically, with a knee, it's never worked because there's no blood flow and they're always dead when they do transplants. He used 3D software technology to work out exactly what in my knee was broken and needed replaced, and they cut exactly the joint from the donor, and they'd match it, and they use their meniscus and tissue, and they take out stem cells from my hip, from my iliac crest, and they put it in, and they put inside a live part from somebody, a live tissue.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And basically the second donor, which was the last one, it was really sad. I rushed over to Germany. I had the operation. When I was lying in my recovery room, I actually heard this young boy's story, and it really touched me. He was a young boy, and he was in a Mercedes-Benz with his mother in Hanover, Germany, and they were waiting at a traffic light on a sunny day, and a truck came speeding around the corner, smashed into the back of the car, squashed the car.
Oh my goodness.
Like a can, and the mother died on the spot. The boy, like all donors, hit his head on the dashboard. They tried to save him. He was a teenage boy, and they flew him to hospital. They couldn't save him. He was too far gone. His father didn't know what to do. Like, it's very hard to get a child donor because they're in shock. And his dad lost everything. His wife and his only kid in 1 second. And he waited to allow his son to become a donor, and he said, okay, I'll let him become a donor. And his son, I met all these people who got, a young girl got the heart, another person got
And they're all in the hospital when you were?
Well, I met some of them and I heard about some of them. Yeah, they were all there in this recovery room, in this recovery area. And I was just really touched by this boy, about his story, and I also wanted to do something to give back. Yeah. And we have an option as a donor. We're allowed to communicate through anonymous letter to a donor's family. And I didn't want to write a letter because what do you write to someone who's lost everything? Yeah. But I felt like it was my duty because no one else had written one. And I explained what had happened to me and how bad I was and how thankful I was. And I can never repay him or his son for what he's done. But one of the things I do, which I've done from a long time ago, is I built schools in third world countries. And I wrote to the dad, I said, I want to build a school in your son's honor. So there'll be a plaque out the front in a third world country that if kids not in school, they start work at 9 years old. Girls get married from 12 years old. And they'll have an opportunity to change their lives. And your son's spirit can live on through all these children.
Wow, that's amazing. But just the fact that he could be so generous in a moment that's so difficult. And then for you to take that on board and say, no, actually, I want to do something great with this as well. Yeah. So, and that's your business. Sorry, don't mind me.
That's okay.
So your business, Hark Angel.
Yeah, it's a charity.
It's a charity, an Australian charity or a global?
It's an Australian charity. Yep. So what happened was I thought, okay, I'm going to build the school for the father. I was already doing charity work before, but I thought I'll build a school in his son's honor, and I created a wine to help me raise money for the school. And I had to think of a name of the wine, and the boy was like an angel to me, so I called him the Hark Angel.
Oh, I love that. That's just,
And then I built the school, I opened it, and I remember at the opening of the school just seeing all these little kids' faces and how excited they were. They have now a middle school, or, the first one was a middle school. Yeah. And they don't have to drop out of school, don't have to start working at a young age. And the parents were so happy. I thought, hold on a second. Here's my return to my resilience. There's an opportunity here. Yeah. And that's when I created my foundation. And, after my accident, one of the benefits are, I died, I came back to life, is I don't do things in halves. And my goal, I think my whole life would be to do 10 schools, but everything in my life now times by 10.
Oh, I love that.
So to do 100 schools in the poorest place in the world. And you know what? In 3 years, I've done 9 already.
That's amazing. In only 3 years.
3 years.
Wow, and
I did
considering the
9
last 2 years
schools.
we've had.
So whilst it's been operational, so
Yeah.
16 to 19, I've
Wow.
done 9 schools. Yeah, we've been closed for the last 2 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so
Like,
2,000 kids in
I
the schools.
have no doubt that you're going to hit your target of 100 schools. I don't think I'd question you on anything. I think you'd give it 200% and it's just all in and I'm going to make it happen no matter what. And so to drive funds for that, is that just through your wine or is that through, how else do you drive funds through to your charity?
I'm the biggest benefactor. I plan on giving away 70% of my wealth in my lifetime. I have a few different businesses, but I love raising money for charity. And my trick with charity is I've never rung someone once and asked them for money. I inspire people to give money. So I show people through my journey and I encourage people to come on my journey with me in charity.
Yeah.
So I actually, I have trips every year where I take maybe 30 people and they spend 6 days each in that country. I do it for a month. So I can have up to 4 groups or 5 groups. And they take part in what I do. They immerse themselves in the school in Archangel. They learn another culture. They learn from a community. They learn about themselves. They learn more than they give to other people.
Yeah.
It's all about the perspective in life. And people in these countries, I have a term that I use. It's called banking resilience. So every time you go through something tough, you bank that little bit of resilience for next time when you really need it in your life. But these people bank their resilience every single day of their lives. Their lives are hard.
Yeah.
They live hand to mouth. That means all the money they make today goes to food that they'll eat on that same day.
Yeah.
To make it so a child will have to work from 9 years old is hard. To sell your daughter, which is a reality of the life that we live in, the world that we live in today. I don't know if you know that 21,000, UN report last year, since COVID, 21,000 girls a day in the world are being forced into marriage. And 90% of them are young, teenagers, probably 12 or 13 years old. And what goes hand in that is female genital mutilation. 4.1 million girls this year, UN report, will be exposed to FGM. Yeah. A lot. It's my first experience was with that. That was my first inkling to help in charity was because of that.
Wow. I feel quite ignorant, but I just really didn't know that those numbers were so high.
Yeah.
In today's...
I think with Archangel, with me and why I do this kind of work is, these are voiceless people. No one knows. No one wants to talk about it because they have no power. They're not rich. They have no value. The press doesn't like to talk about it even.
No.
So it's up to people like me to give a voice to the voiceless,
Yeah.
And a child doesn't choose its life.
No.
An adult chooses its life. That's why I want to help children. And we don't give them things, but we empower them to change their lives. We empower their communities, their parents, their families.
Once you've set up a school, what's the follow through, if any, or does that get handed over someone else? Like once the school's set up, do you sort of still have engagement with the school or is the aim just to set them up and then educate them well enough so that they are able to run things on their own, or is there still input
it's
on
a good
that
question.
level?
It's actually a lot of work. I actually tell the communities, once the school is built, the work is just beginning.
Yeah.
I make them sign a massive certificate, like a deed, a contract, which states that basically they have to keep their kids in school. Their kids have to go to school, they won't work, they have to keep the school neat and tidy, that they want to help them make something of their lives. But once I have a school in that community, we are family. I consider them my family. And I tell them that when in the opening of the school, I'll be back there twice a year to check on the school. My guy, Tuntun, which is in Myanmar, he's there every month. And he lives there whilst we build the schools. So you get to know the communities really, really well. And I love all the families in the communities and all the children in the communities because we just don't build schools straight off the bat. It's a long process to get to work out that we're going to build a school there. But the major thing is that they really want a school.
Yes.
They really need a school.
Yeah.
That they are the poorest of the poor and that they will contribute 20% in the building of that school.
Yeah.
But I will forever be thinking of that community and forever looking at ways that I can help them become better because these are poor people. So to give you an example, I teamed up with an amazing charity called Bikes for Life, which is an Australian charity. Basically, they take old bikes, people drop them at Manly Council. Bikes for Life will get volunteers, repair the bikes, ship the bikes over to Myanmar, and then all the kids which live too far to walk to the school, I disperse the bikes to those poor kids, and they get there.
I love that.
So many different ideas, solar power, bore water, hygiene. I work with Henry Schein to give them toothbrushes and toothpaste. I take them over in my backpack every year. Whatever I can do to help that community, they're family to me. So but I'm always checking on them. They're always accountable. The principal's always giving us, we get reports every year, how many kids passed, where they were last year. We're tracking, whether there's 25% more chance of attendance when there's a Archangel school, year on year growth.
Wow.
So it's a big thing.
That's amazing. And I love that, you consider that community family, because I think sometimes things get put in place to help and there's the right motive behind it, but sometimes there's just not that supporting factor. And I think when you come to it from the different angles, it really gives people a chance for success, because when they know they've got that support, and when you as even a human, you need to be accountable, you do the work. And I think that's the difference, and that respect level for yourself grows and for what you're wanting to learn. And
I think we're in an amazing time in the world right now where, all their parents and grandparents didn't finish primary school. They're all poor farmers, and they work themselves. And the women work harder than the men because they got to take care of the house. And then they're in the fields, they're pulling out weeds. It's a hard life. And it's the first time that they're able to see that their children, they can sacrifice their children working to have the opportunity to have a better life. And why do children work? Not because they're bad parents, but they can't afford to pay the rent. They can't afford
any other way.
They can't afford any other way in their life.
Wow. It's really remarkable. And we'll put all the details, I'll share it on our socials as well, to if people want to get in touch to see how they can, contribute. Definitely. I think it's always the more people supporting each other, the nicer it will be. So we were talking about the wine that you produced as well, that sort of was working in, you created a specific wine to raise funds for these charities. Now, you've got your own vineyard. Yeah. And I love wine.
Good, me too. We can be friends.
Awesome.
We are friends.
Yay. So can you talk me through, with the property, what made you get into wine? Like where on the land, like is that a family tradition?
Yeah.
Like how did it come about that, as one of your businesses that supports your other charities? Which is amazing within itself. How does that, how did that come about for you?
I think when you have business, one of the most important things is passion. You're passionate about what you do. As you know, you're very passionate. I've seen, love your work.
Thank you.
I didn't intend on actually going into wine ever in my life, to be honest with you. But my grandmother, Aziza, who a lot of the wine is called, used to make natural wine for a family in Israel in 1950. They lived in temporary housing, no electricity, no running water. She's an amazing woman. She used to get grapes from a famous winery there called Yarden in Zichron Yaakov, and she used to make wine under the house in clay pots.
Wow.
And throughout our lives, Aziza she was just the matriarch of the family. She's such a special woman. She would bring our whole family together through her cooking, through her wine. She always had a garden. And, she was just that calming influence in the family.
Yeah.
And so I always had it in my blood. I actually found a photo when I was like 7 and she's giving me a lesson on Chardonnay.
Oh my God, I love that.
I'll show you after.
I love it, Granny giving you the lessons on Chardonnay.
Yeah, she's amazing. I was very young back then, but back then.
Never, always ready to learn.
So it was actually my dad who found the property, and he really wanted, to go down this path, but, he had 9 kids and and I just finished up, actually sold that backpackers hostel. And I thought, okay, why not? Let's have a go.
Why not?
Why not? But I love basically you get to take something from nature You know, I can take something from nature and nature is perfect. I can help it become something amazing without touching it too much.
Yeah.
That you and I can enjoy and get drunk and be merry and elevate our spirits on. And winemaking is like no other, that you can't control the weather. There's uncontrollable elements, right? In winemaking, you can't control. And every year is a new challenge. No two wines will ever be the same.
Which is the magic.
Which is the magic. But every bottle is a different story. Every year is a snapshot of time and place, right? Which I can share with you. You open up a bottle, which we will later, and in that bottle, I'm going to remember every single thing that happened in that vineyard in the year. The rain, the hail, the wind, the insects, the fights I had, how it was made, you know, what went wrong, what went right.
Yes.
And it'll always take me back to that time and place. And that's why I love wine so much.
Oh, I love that. And then you were talking about, you know, having it be natural.
Yeah.
Why is that important to you to create something that's not really being touched? Because if you think about most mass-produced wines, you know, it's machines, you've got machines, and then because the fruit's being bruised.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're right.
I've had this all day, haven't I?
It's all right. And the air conditioning doesn't
No.
help.
It's just, I've got this like really annoying tickle. You know, it's like, just, like, sat there going,
I'll just get another glass of water quickly if I can. Thank you, Oscar. Waiting. Sorry, I can speak for hours.
Oh, don't worry, so can I.
No problem.
We're on 52 minutes.
Yeah, cool.
We're on
coming-
52 minutes?
Yeah.
Holy.
That's good.
Yeah.
We aim for about 40, but we're a bit slow in the beginning anyway. And
Yeah.
You can cut stuff out. I'll edit the hell out of it.
No, that's right.
yeah, look, the first one we did, I think, ended up being about an hour. We aimed for like 40, but again, like she's not.
I'll edit it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how they
Yes,
edit it. But
yeah.
if the content's great and it's engaging, then I think, again, leaving some things in its natural state is quite nice. It's not, you know, forced or... But I get to pass it on. I don't have to edit these
Yeah,
ones.
lucky, thank God.
They get to choose. So I just need to go back to mass-produced wines.
Yeah.
Okay, and where was I talking about that? Natural wines, yes. Yeah, so when you're thinking about like these mass-produced, you know, wines that always almost taste the same, and it's, you know, they're using the machines to shake the wine's getting bruised, so then they add the sulfur and they're adding all these extra things to it, which, you know, when you're doing something in its natural state, I'm assuming you pick by hand, it's all delicately done, and are you leaving out the preservatives, you know, or the fining processes and...
Yeah, so it's very topical, this topic. There's nothing wrong with mass-produced wines and you know, wines with sulfur. Sulfur actually comes from the earth. A little bit of sulfur is okay.
Yes.
We choose to make wines with 0 additives for the most part. Our reserves, which stay in barrel and we bottle age for a lot longer, has a touch of sulfur in them, but 90% of our wines have 0 additives, no fining, no filtration at all. And basically, as you said, so the natural wine movement started because of industrialized wines. You'd be able to take any quality of grape, strip back everything in it and add it back artificially. But what do you lose in it? You lose the soul of the wine, which is what I believe is the terroir, the land of where it comes from. So the Hunter Valley has certain characteristics of that land which will give wines certain flavors. And every time you add something, you can mask one of those natural characteristics. So what I want to give you is everything that happened in that vineyard in that year, in that bottle. So you're basically drinking the Hunter Valley, essentially. It's a snapshot of time and place. It's a lot harder to make wines in that style because we go for super high quality every step of the way. We were the first people in the Hunter Valley to be making natural wines. I think before the natural wine movement started in 2008, 2009. But I only produced 20,000 bottles of wine. That's it, as opposed to millions.
Yes.
Because it's so much harder to make my wines. And we sell up before we bottle them. But
wow.
Yeah, it's all
that's a nice position
allocated.
to be in.
It's all allocated.
Yes.
It sells out really quickly. We're at a very exciting time right now. We're about to actually release the new vintage.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. Can you tell me as well, with the bushfires, Australian farming, first of all, we had the droughts for a fair few years, and sometimes that's not a bad thing with some wines, depending on, you know, what you're doing with it. But then the bushfires, were you able to produce a vintage after the bushfires?
Yeah, so
Because I think Hunter Valley is like one of the first sort of regions in Australia to pick, like around February normally.
It's exactly right. January, late January, February, exactly right. So talk about resilience, right? And community getting together. I mean, 17, 18, 19, 20 were drought. There were 50 degrees days. You know, I lost like more than some years, 60% of my fruit. And then in 2020 with the bushfires, we lost 90% of our fruit. So it's been really, really hard. So I didn't really have a release last year. And 2021, which is this year, was our first year where we had a really good crop. We had a lot of rain last year. And as I said, we're about to release a new vintage, which is so exciting. It's our first proper release. We have a big party on the 12th of December at P&V.
I love it.
In Paddington.
Yeah,
you want to come
don't worry,
along?
we'll stick that up on the notes too.
Yeah, but it was a really tough time, man.
Yeah.
You know, you have to push through, and the whole story of the winery was a story of resilience. I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. Yeah. I didn't study winemaking. I didn't go do enology. And I learned from trial and error. I've had great people around me. But I remember the first vintage, I spilled all the wine on the floor, all the Shiraz on the floor, in between fermenting and pressing. Oh, I was just like, I want to come back. I want to go back to Bondi now.
Yeah. I'm ready to go home.
But that was a real story of persistence and resilience and pushing with no light at the end of the tunnel. And you know, I remember at one stage, 2011, I was sitting in my car and I was on the phone to one of my grape suppliers, which was my number one supplier. I almost was like, I can't take the grapes anymore. It's not working. It's too hard. And I didn't make that phone call. But it was just year after year, because not only do you have to make great wine, but then you have to be unique enough to separate yourself from the pack.
Yep.
And then you have to have branding, and then you have to worry about the vineyards, and then you have to, you make the wine, and then all of a sudden you have to sell the wine as well, right? So it was really, really, really hard. There were so many times when I wanted to quit, but I just kept on going, and I kept on going, and I kept on. And that's the thing with me. I just keep on pushing,
Yeah. Wow. And then, so in the middle of all that, you would have had your crash as well.
I had my accident. I've had a few businesses. I do multiple businesses in one go. I had a big company called Skinny Blonde. We did really, really well.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was me and two other guys in Bondi. We made worldwide news, did really, really well. And I learned one of my best lessons, which I applied to the winery from that.
What was that?
And that business was, the more we made, the more money we lost. Because the core economics when we went into bottle weren't correct. We just didn't have enough margin. Right? We were selling everything wholesale. And we got so famous. And we sold, and the business ended up folding, right? And it taught me one of my best, I'm an accountant, I should have known better. But it was, make sure that the economics and the margin is always there. And I was doing the same thing with the winery.
Yeah.
Up until 2013, I'm one person. My dad's always he loves it, my father.
Yeah.
But, it's one person driving this whole thing, and I was doing everything wholesale and export. And it was costing me just as much money to make the wine than I was selling it for, right? Because you got to sell for much more wholesale. And I needed to have a cellar door. But it's a big job to have a cellar door. We weren't popular in the Hunter Valley. It's all families in the Hunter Valley. We're on a back street. And I remember my dad telling me, don't do it, you're crazy, it's not going to work. And I've been around for 8 years. I mean, no one knew us in the Hunter Valley. And I remember I built the cellar door, and I'm like, Dad, people will come. People will come. I promoted it.
Yep.
And I remember the first day, not one customer, not one person.
Did your heart just sink?
Sunk.
Oh.
And then I waited the second week, and no one came. I said, okay. I locked the door. I got a bunch of $10 notes. I drove around to other cellar doors, and I waited for wasn't stealing anyone. I was waiting for people to leave the cellar doors. I stopped in front of the car and said, wait, what's your name? Melanie. And I took a $10 note. I wrote your name on it. And I said, this is yours. Come to my cellar door. If you don't have the best wine experience of your life, this is yours, and I'll give you free wine. I'm 3 minutes drive from here. You can do it. Come.
I love it.
And they came. And then more came. And then more came and more came and it just spread. And today we've got 400 and something 5-star reviews on TripAdvisor. We're number one for the whole Hunter Valley. We have 600, 700 people a weekend. You can't get in without a booking. Yeah.
That's insane.
And it all started with with
you're handing over a $10 note. Your tenacity is just brilliant because it's like, well, if one thing's not working, I'm going to make it work. And again, you're not sitting on your backside going, someone handed to me on a silver platter. I'm going to go out there and make this work. And that's just something you can't teach people.
Yeah.
It's got to come from the inside.
100%.
I love it.
Making strawberry jam out of pig shit is what I call it. Story of my life.
Wow, I love it. Yeah, I think that's just amazing. I think there's so much to be learnt that you've just got to chase it. If you really want it, you've got to go for it.
And if you want something enough, you will get it.
Yeah.
That's it. If you have that drive in you, if you want to achieve something, you're the person that's going to stop.
Yeah.
But no one else will stop you because people, they get encouraged by you. If you have that passion, they want to join in the passion.
It's magnetic.
It's magnetic.
It's when you have this energy and it's like, yeah, come on. You see people, you know,
100%.
and it's just like, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and it's just, it's yes. It's just like people can't say no to that.
100%. So I try to use all of that and try to push that in a charity sense as well. It's a big part of my life.
I just love that. Even the fact that you want to give away 70% of your wealth, which means you want to live, you know, a great life, but you know where that is for you.
Yeah.
And the fact that you don't need all the other BS that could potentially come along with it, and that you're happy to help empower other people's lives is just beyond.
I think for me, like, I'm a very unsettled person. You know, I find it hard to concentrate a lot or to focus. I'm all over the bloody place, you know, a lot of the time.
I was going to ask you later if you're a visionary or an integrator. I don't think I'm going to bother. You're 100% visionary.
No, I make things happen. It's a lot of my job is to make things happen. I do that. But what I have to say is that, you know, for me, I actually never feel better in my life than helping other people.
Yeah.
You know, another charity that I'm involved with is, so with Archangel is when you see a child who's down and out, or a child that's been working, or a child that's been exposed to female gender relations, sold, and whose life is just gone, and you're able to take them back and give them an opportunity to change their life and then watch them grow, you're never going to feel better. Or if you're changing lives in any way, you're never going to feel better. If you're doing good in any way, you're never going to feel better. And for me, I mean, people think, you know, oh, I've got to do my own charity. I've got to be great. I've got to do this. It's BS. You can change one person's life and be good and feel it. And that's for me. That's what it is. And I love helping the most desperate people. And I encourage you to come with me.
Yes.
Every Monday, I'm the director of a fantastic charity called Will to Live. And we feed 1,000 homeless people a week. Will is exceptional. Yeah. He's done this for 8 years. He's out there 365 days a year. Rain, hail, shine, Christmas, New Year's, doesn't matter. And he's changing lives. Every single person. We do a sausage sizzle every day of the week. My mum comes with me now on Mondays.
Oh, I love that.
And we do it together. You know, she's so busy, but she comes, she loves it. And I leave there.
That's in Sydney?
In Sydney, Central Station. Perfect. We need volunteers. If anyone wants to join, just shoot me an email. You know, I leave there and I feel good about myself. I feel like I've done something which is going to help somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, and I pick up the small, I pick up people which I have favorites always, and I try to help them. And but you feel there's no better feeling in the world than, you know, these people go to bed hungry. Yeah. You know, no one will talk to them that whole day. No one will say hello to them the whole day. You know, and it's so sad just to see that. And it's so amazing that we can make a difference. Yeah. Doesn't matter how small, because it could be small to you, but you don't know how big it is for somebody else. Smiling, just a little smile. Yeah. A little smile can change someone's life. Say, how are you?
Change your
how
day
you
when
going?
you walk past somebody. Yeah. And that's from someone who's got a roof over their head and food on the table every day. Like, you know, you have that day and someone just smiles at you walking down the street and says good morning. I'm like, oh, hi. Yeah. You know, and it's nice. It shifts your energy.
Again, it's magnetic.
To do that for somebody else, it costs nothing. Nothing. And it's it's a beautiful thing to be able to give. And your time, you know, when you give someone the quality of time and just a moment, whether it's conversation or helping, it means so much, because I know what it means to me. And so giving it to somebody else who probably requires it even more than what I would
100%
is just the best gift you can give. And it costs nothing. Nothing. Except your energy.
I agree. And also to add to that, it's like if you feel bad about yourself in any way, if you feel like you're missing something, purpose, anything, get out of your head. Yeah. Come along. You don't know how good it will make you feel. It makes me feel good.
Yeah.
You know, all of us are going through things. I'm not perfect. I'm the least perfect person, right? But when I do that, it makes me feel good. And I never feel settled except when I'm giving back or helping. Yeah. You know, my trips to third world countries and being in communities with children and meeting elders and helping and knowing that I'm contributing to change someone's life, I never feel more fulfilled in my entire life than that.
Yeah. What a beautiful gift. So heading into the future, moving into like 2022, what's on the philanthropy journey for you?
So I'm super excited. Unfortunately, very sadly to start with, in Myanmar, where we have Archangel, there's been a coup, and the military government's taken over the country, and the people it's a civil war there. So we're gonna have to pause our work there. My heart goes out to all those people. You know, they were doing so well before that, and to see kids and families and teachers. You know, I got an email from a principal there. She's dying of COVID. She needs money. But the most amazing, elegant woman, and I was able to help her. It was so sad just to experience that. So we're launching though in Kenya and Laos. One of the boys, one of the first kids that I sponsored in Kenya, Africa, on my first trip there 2013. Yeah. And we put him through back in a high school as an orphan. He was a very poor kid. And we got him through university. We facilitated his sponsorship, did community development. And we're hoping to launch Archangel in Kenya and Laos this year. So really excited to get that back off the ground again.
Yeah.
So from Archangel's perspective, we're going to get back out there. We're going to continue with the 100 schools and help kids. With Will to Live, my dream has always been to rehabilitate, not to put Band-Aids. And feeding is so important because they go to bed hungry. Yeah. But there's 1 in 20, 1 in 30 people which have the opportunity to get their lives back on track. So my dream was, which Will has taken up, and we've got an amazing board, is to do a cafe where it's a not-for-profit cafe. We have a site in Redfern, which we're going to open in 4 months. We started building.
Wow.
And we're going to have one homeless person at a time. We're going to house them. We're going to give them psychological help. We're going to teach them a skill, which is to be a barista, work in a cafe. Yep. I've got a style person. You're going to help as well.
I am. I'm jumping on board for that one.
And we're going to try to lift them up enough to be able to push them back out into the world.
Just empowering people.
Empowering people.
I think we've said this a couple of times today, but the way you look and the way you see something, it's not just one-dimensional. Like, you know when someone needs to go to work, you need a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And so to be able to house them at the same time, look at it holistically.
Has to be.
Education, empowerment, and then giving them the skills. It's such a nice way, it's a cohesive way of looking at it and really helping someone. And they build that confidence and that self-esteem. Amazing. And like, what better way to do it? Because you're right, Band-Aids, there are so many of them. Yeah. Whether it's addiction, whether it's whatever it is in this world. But there's so many Band-Aids, and to kind of get to the root core of the problem and work with someone from the ground up again. Yeah. Because, you know, look, I remember going to a lot of therapy after I had a few things happen, and I had the funds to be able to do that. Not everyone has $300 a week to go see a counsellor or a life coach or whatever you want to call it. I was fortunate I did, but other people don't. Yeah. And so how do you get help? You might get 10 free sessions from Medicare. When people have been through massive trauma, that's often not enough. It's a nice start, but to be able to help them, to be able to house them, give them the basic comforts to build themselves up to take that step back out into the world.
Yeah, it's
really beautiful.
So true what you're saying, and has to be a holistic approach. You know, I believe Archangel's motto is every single person is a whole wide world. So if you change one person's life, it's if you're changing the whole wide world. Yeah. And this is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to take one at a time. But, you know, the other ones, it's so sad to see people with, you know, like the most basic things. My poor mum buys socks and underwear every week. Because you think about a homeless person, what do they lack? Socks and underwear, basics. Towels, right? Their teeth are gone already for the most part, you know? And it's sad to see people which they don't know where to start, you know?
Yeah,
like
they don't.
you have a sleeping bag, you got no phone, you got no, you know, alcohol issues or addiction issues, which comes with being homeless, you know? Everyone has a story.
Everyone has a story.
So, but in the cafe, we also have upstairs toilets, showers, a washing machine where they can have a shower, wash their clothes, get new clothes.
Yeah.
And in the back, we're building a commercial kitchen for corporates where we can make meals for homeless people. Anyone come off the street and get a meal. And what I love about Will is he's got this mantra where if anyone will line up for food, he doesn't ask them, do you need food?
Because there's weeks where people can just be doing it tough and they'll feed their kids and they may not feed themselves.
Don't know what someone's going through.
Never.
Yeah, don't judge a book by its cover.
Oh,
yeah.
Never.
But yeah, I'm also speaking at a function. It's called Australia's Longest Lunch.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's in Queensland.
I like food.
It's on March 27th in Brisbane.
That's what your talk's about.
Sorry. Yeah. So I do speak every year for charity. I'm going to talk about basically children's rights in the third world and how we can help children in the third world.
Yes.
I'll give some stories of some children.
Yeah.
And
And the longest lunch, that raises money for
so it's child trafficking.
Child trafficking, that's it.
It's another charity called Project Rescue Children and Harkangel. So all the proceeds will go.
That's magnificent.
To Harkangel and to
You're just one good guy, aren't you?
Yeah,
Can we clone you?
There's a woman, I'm not that good, I promise you. But there's a woman called Hayley and her team at Being. They're putting it on. They're amazing.
Oh, that's so great. So we'll put all the details up and a link to that as well if you want to grab tickets to attend the lunch.
Come along.
You have been an absolute gem to have a chat with, and I really do hope that there's more good people in the world like you. We can all learn a great deal.
Thank you. You're amazing. Thanks
for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, recording.
Oh, amazing. All right, Richie, here's our quick fire questions.
All right, well, I need a drink first.
Are you ready? Oh, hang on. Let's cheers. We've got a new vintage just opened.
New vintage, Harkangel Shiraz 21.
Am I first to try this?
Mm-hmm. You are the first, not released yet. Cheers. Like?
Happiness in a glass.
I know.
That is good, and I'm very fussy with my wine.
That's good.
Okay,
should be.
Back to business.
Yes, let's go.
This might be more important business. All right, top 3 business books.
Okay, How to Make Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
Ooh, haven't read that one.
That's a good book to read. And Outliers. Taught me a lot of lessons. Have you read that book?
No, I haven't.
It's a great book.
Okay.
10,000 Hour Rule, To Master Anything.
Haha.
Yeah, it's a lot of good things.
All right, that's going on my list to read. Christmas is coming. Good time to read a book. All right, let's wait for that. Best advice you've ever been given and by whom?
Oh, been given a lot of good advice. I think my 105-year-old grandpa, before he passed away, he was 105. Wow. And he's given me so much advice. And one thing that's really stuck with me, probably growing up, he said to me 2 things constantly. He said, dream big, aim high. And the second thing he said was, not everyone's going to like you, but you have to be okay with that. And they've just always stuck with me.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice, Grandpa. Favorite quote or mantra?
Oh, so many quotes and mantras. Can I give you a few?
Oh, okay. All right. I'll let you have a few since you've given me one.
Steve Jobs, easy one. You can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can always connect them looking backwards in life. We don't know what's going to happen in our lives or why things are happening, but when you look back, it's always meant to be very fortuitous for my life. An amazing man I met last year was on my podcast, Eddie Jaku. He passed away just a month ago. I love his quote. He says in his book, shared sorrow is half sorrow. Shared happiness is double happiness. How amazing is that? Probably my 2 favorite quotes. Also, hold on, Ram Dass. I love Ram Dass. He says, we're all just walking each other home. That's all life. We're all just walking each other. You know, memento mori, we're not here for a long time. I always think about, like, I nearly died. I came back to life. I always think I'm going to die. And, you know, if I live another 40 years, I'm very conscious it's only 14,600 days. I know that every day.
Yeah.
And it just makes you really want to live life and play hardest and do what you want to do and play the best you can. Like, you know, who cares if you're going to not make it, because you will make it in something.
I like that. Visionary or integrator?
Ooh, both. I am what I need to be. I get shit done. I put out fires when I need to, but I love being the visionary. But the one thing is, when you make wine, you are a visionary and an integrator. But to be a visionary, you need to just be doing that.
Yeah.
If you're an integrator, you're doing a little bit of everything. So I do what I need to be,
cross over.
basically.
Most memorable mentor and why?
Oh, most memorable mentor. I think I've had so many amazing mentors at different parts of my life. If I think back to my accident, I met a guy called Tony in hydrotherapy. He had a severe car accident. He was hit by a drink driver and he was left with really bad brain damage. And he had no motor skills, zero motor skills. And I was so down, I think, on myself and everything. And he was a joker. He would smile and laugh, but he couldn't move. He'd be in a wheelchair, couldn't write. But his brain was 100%, but he couldn't do anything. And he just taught me that what I'm going through is not the worst. I'll be okay. Another one was, you know, just lessons that I got from people. Before I was injured, I was really lucky. I met Muhammad Ali, the boxer. I met him at a charity event in Los Angeles. He had really bad Parkinson's at that stage. And I got seated on his table. And I used to love Muhammad Ali growing up. I used to watch all his videos, his fights, his documentaries. He was just so charismatic. Yeah. And he was the best, right, at what he did. And I really loved him. And here he is, he's sitting next to me. And he couldn't speak at that stage. And he's just he had piercing eyes, just staring at me. And I just said to him, Ali, Bombay, Ali, which is the rumble in the jungle. Yep. And they chanted that, and he had this big smile on his face. He gave me his fist. I'll give you a photo, you put it in the notes. Yeah. And I got along with him so well that his sister-in-law, who was a carer, invited me to see him the next day in his hotel. Oh. And he was sitting there and he was biting on a piece of paper. He had really bad Parkinson's. And he was so unwell, and he sat with me and he said a few words to me. And later when I had my accident, I looked back and I remembered him, and I thought how courageous he was to be so unwell, but to turn up to a charity event where they would use him and who he is. And he didn't want to be there. Yeah. He didn't get anything out of it. Yeah. He wanted to be at home. He traveled there and he did that, and he gave me a lot of strength. But I pull mentors from everywhere. I have speaking mentors, I have business mentors. Yes. And I think it's a very powerful thing to have a mentor, because they can guide you through what went wrong and how to do things, which is what you need. No one can do things on their own. No. Yeah,
we need the guidance. Yeah. All right. When you speak on resilience, when you do your talks, have you had a response from someone in the audience that's really stuck with you?
Oh, I think, I have one which has really impacted me. The first thing I think about is I was talking to school. I did a lot of schools to start with, and I was thinking, okay, what am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? Do I want to be here? And this young girl, she was a little bit overweight. A young girl came up to me and she said, you know, after I spoke, I let people come up to me and speak to me. She looked normal, and she said to me, you know, every day I don't want to live. I don't want to wake up in the morning. I don't want to get out of bed. And I get teased. People don't like me. And hearing your story gives me strength to keep going, to keep fighting on, hear what you've gone through. And I realized then and there, if you change one person through your speaking, if you connect with one person, you know, you're doing a great job. And I think that for me was probably the most magical, the most important, the most, cut through to my heart.
Yeah. Knowing that you actually really do make a difference from your experience.
You don't know how you feel, you say the speech, you know.
But you know, when you're sharing your experience, it also asks you to be vulnerable about that. And then when someone else in turn gives you back that vulnerability and that openness, that within itself is a gift to know that you're on the right path.
But to think this poor young girl gets teased about her weight, she wasn't even even much overweight, or kids are so, they don't know the impact they're having on like bullying
and the pain that's caused through bullying and through nastiness. And
it really made me feel sad for her. I applied and
But to be able to know that, you know, in that moment,
You
that
can
little
change someone.
shift, it's like, well, hang on a second, I can get through this.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. I like it. All right. Favorite wine you've produced?
Ooh.
Pressure.
Okay, just because I'm releasing this wine this year, once in every 10 years, when the stars align, and it's always at the end of a drought, so it's a 2020 Shiraz, where the vineyard only produces 10% of the yield. So what it is producing is super concentrated, super rich, super big. It's an old vine Shiraz. We produced one in 2011, and we have a 2020, and sits in the best barrels for 20 months. And then we age it for 3 years. It's big, it's concentrated, it's rich, it has so much fruit and primary fruit, but...
I love it.
Yeah.
So do you think the 2020 is better than the 2011?
Of course I'd say that. But I'm still drinking the 2011 is amazing. The 2020 is just new and fresh, and the primary fruit is so big. So that's really exciting.
Can I find that on your website?
Not yet. It's going to be privately sold.
Oh,
we can drink a bottle together. We can drink a bottle together.
I need to be in the inner circle. How do you start your day?
Okay, this is a good one. I don't sleep much. I'm one of those people. I only sleep like 5.5 to 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
I always wake up between, if I'm not drinking or having a big dinner or an event, but generally the majority of the time wake up between 4:30 and 5 a.m. I try to, every day in my life is rehab. I've been given the gift of walking again, and I work hard to keep that. And so it's always about putting muscle on my leg, getting better every day. A big part of that is yoga.
Yep.
So today I actually did gym at 5 a.m. I did a 90-minute gym session, and then I did 90 minutes of yoga an hour later.
Perfect.
And I started my day at 9, but I do meditation afterwards. So I do gym, some kind of walking, yoga, which is my breath work, meditation. You walk out of there and I feel like you own the day, and you own the morning, you own the day.
Yeah.
If I ever have something which is really tough in my life and I need a problem solve, and this is a little hint I give to people, I wake up before other people. In the morning, your brain has the most energy. It's proven to solve your biggest issues. A lot of things get harder as the day gets along because you lose a lot of brain energy. So I use that superpower because I know everyone else is sleeping and I'm awake and I can conquer in the morning.
The 4 a.m. superpower. We need some kind of cape with that on. 4 a.m. superpower. Who inspires you?
Oh, I like what you said before. I actually draw inspiration from everybody. I really come into the world and I try to have really open eyes. You know, like I got inspired by a homeless person the other day. You know, what he has to go through every single day of his life to survive. I get inspired by, you know, the people that, the families that I help in Myanmar, in Kenya, you know, that they struggle to feed their families, that they you know, my parents inspire me, my friends inspire me. I look for the good in everyone, and I look for the inspiration in every single person I come across. So I try to learn something from everyone.
Nice answer. If you were to study in the future, what would you study?
I just did a wine course, my WSET 3. I've never formally studied wine. I love to go back and do maybe some more chemistry or a wine subject to try to get a little bit of that formal study under my belt.
Yeah.
But if not that, I'd say philosophy. I'd love to learn.
Yeah. I want to study geology.
Geology, wow.
Rocks. But only through studying wine.
It's the same thing.
Because you're
It's
understanding
a lot
the
of
terroir, and it just, like, I always think, I can't wait. And I'm just going to sit there and study geology. It's just
Geology's
fascinates
amazing.
me.
Yeah, very cool.
Top 3 things you'd like to achieve in the next 5 years?
Definitely roll out Harkangel worldwide. We've been struggling because of COVID. I think Harkham Wines, I've been trying to do this pool club biggest cellar door expansion in the Hunter for 6 years.
Wow.
I'd love to...
Pool club.
A pool club.
Is it the right temperature up there?
Yeah, it's really hot.
I'm in.
I'd like to see that happen. And then I think as well, I've got 8 brothers and sisters. Not everyone's as successful as I am. I want to start them on their passive investing journey. I'd love to get them kind of going. And maybe even like very simple to pull it back, I suppose. I'd like to maybe find love and start a family in my life.
Yeah.
I think I've
nice
achieved
things.
a lot. Yeah.
Nice things to have on your 5-year time goal. Richie Harkham, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mel.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of Learning Without Limits. I'm Melanie Bernicle. Catch you next time.